Hey guys, welcome to Unit 3. This is video 3.1. Today we're going to talk about the mole and kind of what that is. So when I say the word mole, maybe you think of this guy right here. That's not what we're going to talk about. Maybe, I would imagine many of you probably don't even get this reference, but we're not talking about the mole that's either on your face or on your back either. We're talking about this guy right here and what he developed. Okay, so the mole is the official definition. It's the amount of a substance that contains as many particles as there are atoms and exactly 12 grams of carbon. So the way that we want to think about the mole is that it's a counting unit. Okay, so it's just like a dozen. If I said dozen, you guys would say 12, right? So if I had a dozen eggs, I have 12 eggs. If I have a dozen pencils, I have 12 pencils. If I have a dozen cars, I have 12 cars. This number that we say the mole is the same thing, okay? Now, the number is not 12, but we use it the same way. So it is a constant. It's the number of particles in exactly 1 mole of a pure substance. That number would be right here, 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. Definitely make sure you watch the song, or else I will just play it for everybody in class, which is probably what I'm going to do anyway. So 1 mole, when we say 1 mole, it's 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd of anything. So if I said I had a mole of eggs, I would have 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd eggs. If I said I had 1 mole of cars, I would have 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd cars. Okay. Now, the most common units that we will use are these 4 right here. Atoms just mean a single element. Okay, so this is just definitions right here. This is just kind of telling you the substance that you're looking at. Ions means, right, that they are charged, so they've gained or lost electrons. Formula units means that we have an ionic compound. We will talk more about these when we do our bonding and naming unit later in the year. And molecules refers to a covalent compound. Again, something that we will talk about later on in the course. So for now, guys, don't worry so much about those, but just remember that when we say a mole, it's talking about the number of atoms, okay? And this is a gigantic number. This is 602, and then there's 21, 2, 3, okay, that's how big that number is. We're not going to write that over and over. That's why we took the time in the first unit this year to make sure we know how to use scientific notation, okay, because this is a number we will use a lot, and we've got to make sure we're plugging it into the calculator correctly. So if you're having issues with the calculator as we go through this unit, stop, pause any video you're at, call me over to make sure you know how to use it. Don't let the calculator be the reason why you get a problem wrong. So these are just examples of conversion factors. Okay, I'm going to just erase that. You don't need to. And remember, guys, conversion factors from Unit 1, it's just multiplying by fractions. Okay, so this is not anything brand new. We've done this process. It's just using a new number, a new term. All right, so we could have 1 mole over 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd atoms, or we could flip it, right? We could have 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd atoms on top, or with 1 mole on the bottom. What will determine which is on the top and the bottom is what we're starting with. Remember, this phrase, you're going to hear me say it a lot, let your units drive your math. If you still don't know what that means, ask, right? Let me explain it to you, because your units are going to be the biggest thing. Notice we're not using metric system here, okay? We're going to be using moles, any of these 4 that we listed already and we talked about, or grams, and we'll talk about how they relate as we go throughout this unit. All right, so every single one of these that I have here, we could flip it, all right, to make our conversion factor. Now you're going to see me with formula units. I will write it as fun, just to abbreviate, and the reason I say fun is because if I leave it as just the first 2 letters of the 2 words, it's not very nice. Okay, so I don't want to see that on your papers because I will get offended. And the last one, 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd molecules. You'll see me abbreviate molecules as molec. Notice mole, guys, that is the standard abbreviation for mole, even though it's 1 letter shorter. All right, they still will do it that way. So let's jump into a couple problems. All right, so it says how many molecules, so we're looking for molecules, are in the quantities below. So again, set up your T-chart. Anytime we're converting from one unit to another, we're going to use a T-chart, right? This dimensional analysis piece. So set your units up first. So I have moles to start. That means it's got to go on the bottom because I'm trying to get rid of it. Molecules will be on the top. So if I want to look and see, well, what's this conversion factor going to look like? Oh, look, notice with every single one of these that we drew or we wrote up here, the number 1 always goes with mole, okay? And think about it, guys. It's a counting unit, just like a dozen, right? 1 dozen counts for 12 whatever, 12 eggs. So the, oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. The unit that we're talking about, the mole here, is always going to be smaller. All right, that's what I'm trying to get across. I can't remember the wording that I wanted. Anyway, so 1 mole is 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd molecules. Okay. Now, how we plug that into our calculator absolutely matters. So follow me as I go over here. I'm going to flip this. So we had 2.0 times 6.02. Now remember, when we use scientific notation, okay, we have to make sure we use the second function and then get that e. So again, it's the button right above the number 7. For me, it's a comma. For you guys, it's like x raised to the -1 power. Regardless, on the screen, it should have a capital E. Now, do I type in times 10? No. I just type in my exponent. So, and then I hit enter. So this is what you should see on your screen when you plug it in, then hit enter. So our answer here is 1.204 times 10 to the 24th. So I'm going to go back to our notes. It wants to, move. Let's flip it, sorry. So our final answer here was 1.204 times 10 to the 24th. Make sure you have your unit. If you don't have a unit, you will not get credit. Got to have your units with it. All right. So that should hopefully be a little bit of a review for us using this process. The only new piece is we have this mole term. Okay. So I would encourage you guys to pause the video and try the next 2 on your own, and then come back and kind of see what they are. All right. So 1.5 moles. So I'm going to just use that. So moles on the bottom, molecules on the top. 1 mole is 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. Moles cancels out. And when I do my math, you should get 9.0 times 10 to the 23rd molecules. If you did not get that number, okay, check first. Did I set it up correctly? Did my units cancel out? Did I plug it in the calculator? And that's probably it. So if you're having issues, again, call me over. So if you did not pause it after number 1, pause it now and try this last one on your own. All right, here we go. Let's jump in. So 0.75 moles. So we're going to have mole on the bottom. Notice with every single one that I've worked out, I've gotten my units set up first. Then it makes it easy to see where my numbers need to go. Okay, they follow along. That's what I mean by let your units drive your math. When we plug this problem into our calculator, we should get 4.5 times 10 to the 23rd molecules. All right. So I'm hoping that it's getting easier for you. All right. Now, what happens if we go the opposite way? All right. Where if we start with molecules and we want to go to moles. All right. It should be the same process except reversed. So again, start with your units. So molecules, moles, 1 mole, 6.02 times 10. So what we're doing now is we're just dividing by Avogadro's number. Hopefully we can do number 1 by ourselves in our heads. That's just going to be 1 mole. Okay? So we can either multiply or we can divide depending on where we're starting. So I would encourage you guys, do numbers 2 and 3 on your own, and then come back and check and see what they look like. All right, so, excuse me. Excuse me. So molecule is what we had to start. I forgot to write it in. Mole, so 1 mole, 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. This is going to equal 2 moles when we do our math. All right, so this number 3, a little bit more interesting when we actually plug in the number. 1 mole over 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. When you do this, you should get 2.49 times 10 to the minus 4th. Now, it did not ask you to put it in scientific notation, so you don't have to. So if you did not have it in scientific notation, you would get 0.000249 moles. All right, so that's it for this video. You guys have practice 2. Check your answers. Ask questions as you're confused. Call me over. I'll see you in the next video.